Special Ad Hoc Committee, August 19th, 2024.
I call the Special Ad Hoc Committee for Rules of Procedure for Bucyrus City Council, Bucyrus Codified Ordinance Chapter 111, Council, Rules of Council, and Bucyrus Codified Ordinance Chapter 113, Ordinances and Resolutions, meeting to order at 6:00 p.m. Members present are Carolyn Shireman, Zion Hickman, Chris Moritz, and myself, Vicki DeShawn, as chair. Before we start, I'd just like to make a little statement. Just a friendly reminder that our rules of procedure for Bucyrus City Council set forth that both public citizens and council members are not to make personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or become boisterous or physically threatening during a council or committee meeting. I would also like to move around our agenda, if that's okay with the committee. Zion, you okay with it?
Yeah, that's all right.
Carolyn?
I don't know. Go on.
First off, what I'd like to do is start with the approval of the minutes from the July 1st, 2024 Special Ad Hoc Committee meeting. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 1st, 2024 Special Ad Hoc Committee meeting.
A second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion by Hickman, a second by Moritz. Does anybody have any discussion or questions about the minutes? If not, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, what I would like to do is look at our proposed ordinance number 11-2024. And at our July 1st, 24 committee meeting, the committee had talked about some changes to be made, and at the meeting, the law director indicated that he would readjust our draft ordinance, making those changes. One of those, we wanted to make cross-references to rules of procedure, both under Chapter 111 and Chapter 113. We also talked about, under Section 111.21, which is the council rules for security, there was no distinguishment of subjects. Was it just referring to the public, or was it referring to both the public and council? And then also there was to be a 111.99 penalty section. Now, you've all been provided a copy of the revised draft that Mr. Gernert prepared. And if you'll notice on, page 1, under Chapter 111, or I should say under Section 1, and then Chapter 111, he has added in the section 111.22, punishment and expulsion of council members. And before I go any further, I did want to say this. For those in the audience who are wanting to participate in public participation, I thought we, as a committee, would go over what Mr. Gernert has changed. And as we discuss each change, then the public can feel free to come up and at that same time, express their thoughts on that change, if that's okay with the committee as well. So again, he's added the section 111.22, punishment and expulsion of council members. So we'll flip back to that section that he has added in, and I'll read it aloud. 111.22, punishment and expulsion of council members. The council may punish or expel from a meeting any member for disorderly conduct or a material violation of its rules. No expulsion shall take place without first having the disorderly conduct or rule violation be attempted to be remedied through a point of order, pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order. The concurrence of 2/3 of all members present, nor before the subject matter has been given an opportunity, or subject member, excuse me, has been given an opportunity to be heard, unless the circumstances pertaining to the disorderly conduct do not allow such opportunity. I think we're all aware that Mr. Gernard's not present at tonight's meeting, so as far as being able to ask any legal questions, we're not really going to be able to do that tonight, but I feel we can still talk, take notes, and then we can pass those on to Mr. Gernard. Does anybody have any question? Not that I'm going to be able to answer it, on the 111.22?
I have a question, right? I think that on this section right here, I think this should be tabled until Mr. Gernard is here. Why are we discussing it now when we'd have to discuss it again with Mr. Gernard?
Well, we already had our ad hoc meeting scheduled prior to his...
But Mr. Gernard's not here, so we can table this.
Yeah, we're not planning on requesting legislation or anything.
No, you're talking about we can discuss it. Why don't we wait and discuss it in front of Mr. Gernard?
Okay, Carolyn, does anybody else have anything to say? Does anybody have any thoughts on the...
I was curious for circumstances with, we need to go into further
Okay.
detail with that.
Got it? So we're looking at possibly asking Mr. Gernard to elaborate
Right.
on what those circumstances would be,
Right.
okay? Zion, did you have anything that,
Besides the circumstances part, no, I think it looks all right at the moment.
does anybody from the public wish to come up and make any comment or anything on this particular section? All right. Next, under cross-references on page 1, was my understanding that under misconduct, we were going to put rules of procedure for Bucyrus City Council as a reference. And I noticed that was not placed on there by Mr. Gernard, so we'll pass that on to him as a reminder that that is what was discussed at our July 1, 24 meeting. Under 111.05, recognition before speaking. I noticed in the second sentence, well, it states, for all purposes, save that of seconding motions, no member of council shall be entitled to any privileges of the floor until they address the president of council. And I think we want to put in there, or committee chair, by proper title or gain attention otherwise in a respectful manner, and are recognized by the president, and then also insert, or committee chair. So that during a council meeting, the president is the one that needs to recognize the speaker, and then at the committee meeting, it is the chair that needs to recognize the speaker. Carolyn?
I disagree with this because for those who attended, I was shut down from speaking in a meeting by the committee chair, which stated he had the right to do that. So if a committee chair has a beef with someone, they could shut them down. So I'm saying I want to leave it with the council president for those reasons only.
Okay. Keeping in mind that the council president has no standing, so to speak, when we have committee meetings. And it is the committee chair
But
then.
he would be the one that would shut down.
He meaning?
the president, council president,
Would shut down who?
the chair speaker. In other words, if the president was here at the last meeting and this was in there, he could have shut down Mr. Myers for shutting me down from speaking. And actually, Mr. Thidoff was on his way up to talk too, and he shut the whole meeting down. So I think the council president should have been here for that one.
Okay, does anybody else have any thoughts on the adding in of committee chair?
Nope.
Are we allowed to talk?
Oh, sure, yes, please. And you know, Aaron, if you
I
don't
think they
mind.
need to come up
Yes.
here.
Excuse me, Carolyn. Aaron, if you don't mind coming to the podium, only because we do have it. Yes, thank you very much.
Aaron Sharrock, 1485 Oak Ridge Drive. Yeah, I definitely think that needs to be added in. That was one of the things that have been missing in a lot of the different sections, where it only said president instead of, because you have to have the person in charge be the one in charge. And we had tried to fix that on a couple of other things, but I'm not sure if we even hit all of them. We might want to scan back through and see how many we might have missed that should have both.
Your thoughts, Chris?
No member of council, just say, or committee, then that's where the chair part could come in.
Okay, excuse me then, I did not hear what you said.
Well, he's not here, or whoever's president's not here during committee meetings. So they need to have it, you know.
But the president, excuse me, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Chair is the president during committee meetings.
Mhm.
But it doesn't really say that in this. We want to try to make it say that in this, right?
I guess what I was looking at was it refers to the president of chair, or the president of council is the one that will recognize someone that wishes to speak at a council meeting. Then I thought we wanted to add in, or the committee chair recognizes someone to speak during the committee meeting. The president is the authoritative individual over council. The committee chair is over the committee. But if, you know, you wish to wait and we'll just pass, you know, my thought on to the law director and then we can, I'm fine with
We can pass
that.
it on to him, I think it needs to be, a definition needs to be made for council and committee,
So I guess my next question.
which is basically what you're saying anyway.
Right. So I guess my question is, does the committee feel comfortable in making a motion that we add "or committee chair" twice in this section?
I don't,
I'll make a motion to add or committee chair to section 111.05.
I also think that needs to be added in 111.05.
I do not.
Do I have a second?
That'd even be seconded.
I'm sorry. Okay. Any more discussion?
Other than the fact, no, I don't think it should be there. I think the council president should be here to do his job of taming down council and its members.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye as well, I'm sorry. And all those opposed?
No,
And I guess I should have said, motion by Hickman, second by Moritz. Excuse me. Okay, so we'll pass that change on to the law director. Then next, page 5 of 11.
Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. Before we move on, the 111.05, I was thinking about how this is recognition before speaking. How However, I know Robert's Rules defaults if it's not pointed out anywhere else, but I just think for clarity, my question was, should point of orders be also placed in here? Or does point of order have its own section? Because I think it's in the rules and procedures, but it's not necessarily in the 111.
It's in the rules of procedures. And that's where, and this will be a question, I think, to ask the law director, by referencing rules of procedure for Bucyrus City Council, if that would cover, and you're talking about 111.05, Clarissa?
Yeah, I guess what's tripped me up, and now that I'm reading it a second time, or reading it from a different environment, I'm seeing it says, for all purposes, save that of seconding motions. I think that clause is what makes it seem like you can't do a point of order without saying Mr., or, because I think it's words in the, words are hard. The rules of procedure, it states that you refer to Mr. or Madam President and/or committee chair, however it's worded, before speaking, but point of orders are kind of like in the moment kind of thing. And usually, like, I think Robert's rule says that you were granted the floor, which I've seen here used practically, so that was my question.
And I'm not sure, when you go to make a motion, I don't think you ask for recognition by the chair, whether it be of the committee or of council, do you? Because usually, I'm thinking, someone says, I entertain a motion, or do I have a motion? And maybe we're not doing that correctly.
Yeah, I just think it's like, I know it seems arbitrary, but I just wanted to make it, since we're here and looking at it, it's...
So let me ask you this. What is it that you are thinking that possibly it should state? And I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, because this is for all purposes, save that of seconding motion, so mean all purposes except for, essentially is what it's saying. No member of council should be entitled to any privileges of the floor until they are addressed by the president of council.
So that
by
would-
proper title or gain attention otherwise in a respectful manner and are recognized by the president. So I guess it kind of says you can do a point of order, but it doesn't really say it, 'cause it's by proper title. So to me, it's reading, you have to go, Mr. President, be addressed, and then say point of order, but technically point of order can and may occur at any time if you look at like Robert's rules.
I'm sitting here going,
I know, it's just like, we default to this being our rules, right? And then if anything's not in here, then it go to Robert's rules. But this is saying something different than Robert's rules, so that's why I just wanted to make sure it was included, so it doesn't negate Robert's rules.
And let me check something here quickly, if I may, and you probably can point it out quicker than me here. Yes, 111.17. All questions concerning the government of council and the transaction which are not provided for by this chapter or by the laws of the state are decided in accordance with the parliamentary rules as laid down.
Yeah, so those are like typical parliamentary rules, however, this is stating something different than Robert's rules, so that's why I was just wondering for clarity's sake.
Okay, well, how about this? We already have had a motion and a second, and we passed that motion. I'm going to make a note and then
Yeah,
pass this information then on to the law director when the time comes for another draft preparation, and then we can get some legal advice from him.
of course, that's
Okay.
perfect.
Thank you.
Just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see here. Okay, so where were we here? Oh, 111.18, page 5 of 11, order of business. We have under A for council, the second one, we have invocation. And because we have not been doing the invocation, prior council would and wouldn't do it, I have no problem with that remaining in the order of business, but I'm wondering if maybe we would want to think about putting after that optional. In other words, it's not something that has to be done, but it's there if, you know, the council president or someone maybe requests that, you know, we have someone come and give an invocation at a particular meeting, but it's not something that has to always be done every time. Just a thought. Does the committee have any thoughts on that, or?
I think an invocation would be a good thing.
Now, are you saying an
At
invocation?
every,
Yes, Aaron?
It was left in there because people wanted it in there just in case anything changed. But due to the fact that we have such a wide variety of people in our community that we all represent, we had not been able to reach out to all of their different leaders. And since there are variations of religious groups in our community, that's why it was gone ahead and left out, that because there was also an issue at the county level in which there had been a lawsuit, so we just left it there. So yeah, having optional would probably be good. That way, if something comes up and we can figure out how to make this fair for everyone in our constituency, then that would be a good idea.
Carolyn?
I believe that whoever, I don't even know who is the one that chooses for them to come. I don't know if it would be the council president. But I'm thinking, if you're the one that does it, which I don't see a problem with that either, that you explain to them, they just say something that has nothing to do with any denomination. Just like, say a prayer for all. It'd be like saying the Pledge of Allegiance, you know?
Sure, if you would come to the podium, Kurt, please.
Kurt Fankhauser, 616 Prospect. The last time we were doing it, we kind of put out a notice or something to, if any groups or whatever's in the area wanted to be coming to do an invocation, they could get a hold of the clerk, and then several of them reached out, and then the clerk kind of had like a rotating list that it was Todd Hill then. He just kind of went through, and this same several of them just kind of went in order each meeting.
Kurt, can I ask Kurt something?
Yes, Carolyn?
Kurt, did you
And there wasn't that many that reached out.
Yeah.
Did you have any controversy with anybody doing that?
Oh, there was one that he kind of came in here and started some fire and brimstone from the thing, and I don't think we asked him anymore to come back.
Okay, so then there wasn't no big deal over it. I think we should go back to the way it was when Todd was here and let Miranda. I think there ain't nobody sitting here that can't use a little godliness.
Do you have anything else, Kurt?
Well, and there's nothing that says it actually has to be a pastor like that last guy that came in here. I mean, he could have come in himself and said a little prayer or something, you know?
Okay, so my question, thank you, Kurt. My question is, we have this on our order of business. So I'm interpreting that means we should be having an invocation. And that's why I was suggesting that we put optional behind it, then we're not bound to do it, which we haven't been following the order of business. A lot of things we haven't been following, but that's okay. We'll get it all in order. Is the committee wanting to address placing optional in here now, vote on it, or do you not want to vote on it?
I don't want it optional. Excuse me.
I'm fine, I'm just asking.
I think we have been following it in the first place for however long we haven't been following it. I think optional might be well placed.
That does leave it open in case somebody does want to come in or we want to invite somebody.
Correct. Mhm.
But can I say something?
Yes, you may.
I think that in address to Zion's comment here, I don't think we've been going by any of the rules and procedures that we've laid out.
You're talking right now?
Well, no, he's saying because it was in the rules and, could you say what you just said?
Because the invocation hasn't been followed for how long?
Yeah.
Right. Well, neither has a lot of the other rules and procedures been followed. For how long?
And that's what we're hoping.
So
to-
should we put optional behind every rule and procedure? Just to leave it open?
I don't think so.
I don't either. I mean, right, so why do we want to put optional?
If we did that, then we wouldn't need rules and procedures.
Well, we don't
We'd want
have,
the obstacles behind
well,
it.
we kind of don't have them now.
Do I need to say my address?
Clarissa?
Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. So this is just my take on it, and my opinion, and maybe something to chew on. It'll never be perfect. Like the goal is not perfection. Inconsistent consistency, like your attempt to be as consistent as possible is what we're aiming for, what I hope to see in council. And my thought is here, technically, if you have the order of business listed out every time, technically after call to order, there should be a motion to suspend the rules every single time you don't do invocation. And I just feel that is, if you're wanting to do it the right way, quote unquote, having optional, since it is not being done, would be beneficial. Because when things aren't being followed by the rules, that's where that point of orders can come in, that I encourage people to use when they feel that the rules aren't being followed. So that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask Clarissa a question?
I think we're not going to have the back and forth.
How do you know I'm going back and forth? So you're shutting me down from asking a question? Okay, I got it. That's, okay, Vicki, thank you. You shut me down when you don't even know what I was going to say.
Does the committee wish to make a motion about the word optional after invocation? Or do you?
I'll make a motion to add optional after invocation in 111.18, section A.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Hickman, a second by Moritz. I will ask for any more discussion. Seeing none or no one, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No,
Okay, motion passes. Next, on page 6 of 11, under 111.20, under C, Notice of Special Meetings, the last sentence that states, "Such special meeting Well, it's talking about posting a statement on the, of the time, place, and purpose of such special meeting. And then it goes on to say, on the council door. And this was an error on my part, Scribner error, maybe it's not even really a Scribner error. I did not include the word chamber. Everywhere else it states on the council chamber door and the city's website. So I'm looking to insert the word chamber before door. I don't personally feel that requires a motion in a second. Then, next, on page 8 of 11, 111.21, Council Rules for Security. This is where Law Director Gernert took the word subject and identified it as a non-council member. And this is the procedure that's to be followed if a non-council member is disrupting, making slanderous remarks, boisterous, what have you. The procedure that is followed to either allow that person to continue to talk or not talk, or be removed from the meeting or removed from the building. Carolyn?
I think this should be tabled until the law director is here.
And I'm fine with that, because this is what the law director himself, had put in, and
But
Aaron,
I'm sure we
excuse
have
me.
questions in that, so I think the law director should be here to explain it.
Aaron?
I was going to say, and the fact that he has non-council member, and at that point, it'd probably be council or non-committee member. So if he does add it that way, you'd probably want it, because I could be a council member, but I'm not on
Sure.
this committee. So if I were, I'm not part of what's in here.
Aaron, I'm going to ask you to repeat that, because I was looking for something.
That's okay.
And please.
Oh, just where it says non-council, it should probably say and/or non-committee member. Because we want the same rules for the committees at that point. And even as a member of council, I could disrupt your committee.
Well,
without,
that's correct, because it does,
So-
excuse me, Aaron, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Paragraph 1 does state that the chief of police or his designee shall be on the city premises and available to serve as the sergeant-at-arms at all council and committee meetings. So,
just saying-
understand what you're saying.
No matter what, when we talk to him, we definitely would want to add the double.
Now, remember when we were talking about, when we were doing some distinction between council and committee, and it was like, well, yes, you're a committee member, but you're a council member.
Right.
And I don't know if we,
I think that, because it's the disruption of the meeting. So as a non-committee member, if I were to disrupt the meeting, I'm, also stepping out of my bounds.
gotcha. Okay.
So I look at it as, when we're looking at that, because that's what that really is talking about, is what's disrupting. And
Okay, so I
I
put
would
down,
wanna-
excuse me, we also want to talk about non-committee member, or refer to.
yeah.
Okay. So we'll pass that information on to the law director. I noticed that we do not have a 111.99 penalty in here. So that is something that want to address again with the law director, because we had talked about that at the July 1 ad hoc meeting, that there was to be that placed in there. Then under chapter 113, which is page 9 of 11, the notes that I had taken at the July 1 committee meeting was that we also wanted to, under cross references, make reference to rules of procedure for Bucyrus City Council. And I noticed that that is not on there. And we can check, with the law director, maybe there was a reason he decided not to put that on there, but we can ask that question of him, if you're okay with that. Then on page 10 of 11, up at the top, this was another error on my part. When I was typing this, typing up the rough draft, where it talks about the second sentence, and it talks about where we're going to be, or where the council clerk posts the full text of the ordinances and resolutions. I had placed on here Crawford County Courthouse, or no, I had placed Crawford County Digital Law Library. But our council clerk had reminded us and had requested it should state Crawford County Courthouse Digital Law Library. She requested that back on February the 19th, and I did not put in the courthouse. So that's another, I guess I'll say Scribner or whatever. So we do want to put courthouse in front of digital, and I'll pass that on to the law director. Also, under 113.02, the formal step-by-step legislative procedure, if we'll look under letter M, it says, make copies of the request for legislation form and distribute to the committee chair. Then we need to add, or anyone requesting. And that verbiage was requested by Councilman Myers at the February 7th, 24 ad hoc meeting. And smack my hands, that was another mistake on my part for not including that. I think I'm 3 for 3 now, are I not? That's all that I saw when I was going through this again. So I think we've talked about the changes that the law director has made and questions that, we will have of him or what have you. There had been other discussion on censorship. I think, Carolyn, you had passed on to the committee social media, having a social media policy in our rules.
Yes, my question was, where in our rules and procedures is there anything to do with, I want to call it, let me see what I have here. I have this.
Okay, now this, I don't think you've passed this out to the committee, have you?
No, I don't, I'm giving it to you.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm also giving this to you before we do anything. That way you can come back with what you got out of it.
Okay, so then let me ask you this.
I think we should table social media to another meeting.
Okay. I will make copies of what Carolyn has provided me, scan them, email them to Miranda, then she can email them to the remainder of the committee members, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And then that'll give us time to look these over. Because as of now, we do not have any reference in our council rules, whether it be rules of procedure or our chapter 111 about social media.
And I also have this. I have a question for you straight off, though, if I may.
Sure.
According to the Sunshine Law, how does the Sunshine Law come into play for council members in a group on social media, on Facebook?
That's a question for the law director. I have no clue.
Well, the reason I'm asking that is because there's 4 council members that are in a group on Facebook, and are they breaking the sunshine law? And then I might as well just go into this about, 4 members of council being in a hate group.
Social media. And
Does that break the sunshine law?
did you say a number, what?
4 members of council
Okay.
in a hate group on Facebook.
Okay. And again, that is not something, I have no answer. That again would be.
And I
yeah.
think that we need to really zero in on this because it is happening now as we speak.
Did you have something else document-wise you wanted to give to me?
I have this, and I give you this one, right?
Yes.
Okay, then you can have this one,
Okay.
and then you got this one, and I will be doing some more, looking into, some other things that are happening.
And the documents that Carolyn has given to me deal with prohibiting harassment, intimidation, or bullying, harassment issues, what elected officials need to know, cyberbullying and cyber stalking laws in Ohio, and guidelines for elected and appointed officials using social media. And again, I'll scan these, email them to Miranda, and have her then email them to the committee.
And I have more information if you're ever interested in it.
Okay?
But you would have to call me because I'm not telling it anywhere else.
Okay?
And I have proof. It has to stop.
Does anybody else have anything that they want to bring up that we're thinking we might want to be adding to our 111? I mean, committee members or public want to come forward? Do you have any thoughts?
I don't have anything right now.
Okay. Anybody from the public?
I've got Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. I've got the 111.15 states upon every call of the yeas and nays, every member present shall vote unless unanimously excused. It does say, voting required in exception. I know there's been numerous occasions this hasn't occurred where every member present hasn't voted.
And excuse me, I've been a bad one. I have forgot at times and realized, oh my gosh, I
I
didn't.
just sat there, yeah, I know. It's all right, it happens, but,
But yes, we do have to be more mindful of that.
I do have on here, though, that, a question to the law director may be what would be appropriate if a vote is not casted and excused.
Okay? And as you pointed out, that'll be a question for the law director, so I've written that down here.
I see that under 111.18, order of business, this may be a meeting I hadn't been present for, but I was questioning why. I'm sure there was a conversation, it wasn't just moved arbitrarily. The granting permission for visitors to speak was moved to the beginning instead of after, like why it was moved where it was, I guess, was my question.
You want to know why it was moved?
Yeah.
Okay. I could answer that, or Aaron, would you like to answer that question? I'll answer it. Before I came on council, I would come and have questions about the minutes. But unfortunately, the minutes were approved before the granting of permission for visitors to speak. So they felt if they moved the granting permission for visitors to speak before the minutes were approved, then whatever questions I or someone else may have, if the committee or if the council then said, oh, we will approve the minutes based on the changes that have been, is that correct? Am I explaining that correctly, Aaron? And of course, I mean, that's not how it's being done now,
Right.
but that's how we want it to do, or want it to be.
So, I guess being up here and listening, something that I have noticed that tends to occur is on the second granting permission for visitors to provide input regarding reports read by chairpersons, etc. My
Yes.
solution was to also add and communications and petitions. Because what I have noticed is that sometimes, other members who are speaking and granting members to speak, and then the communications and petitions are read. I think a good example of that would be when the discussion for the new signs for Bucyrus City. Someone had, that discussion spurred from,
Oh, the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
yes.
Yes.
And how there was discussion about just getting whole new signs. I had a thought on that, but then didn't feel that it was appropriate to bring it up on the second reading because of the way that it's, or the second public participation, thank you, because it wasn't listed as what we were supposed to be, like, discussing if we came up to speak. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to sit here and think. So you wanted to address a petition that was presented to council or a communication that was presented to council?
Correct.
So you wanted to ask questions?
Or provide input if other members of the public are here, maybe for a similar reason, if they present first, but then they're not given an opportunity to amend or, like, let's say, I guess, what was it, the tax credit issue was a big thing, right? Obviously, we keep going back to that, but, like, let's say, theoretically, you grant people the permission to speak, but then somebody provides a community petition and they make a point. The people who are just up here speaking on that, they can be like, I actually agree with this other citizen, this seems like a good idea. That way they can either amend or provide input on that new perspective, was my consideration. Like, if you look at the way that it's broken down, right? Granting permission for visitors to speak is first. And then there's all of this, but like if I came up because I saw the packet,
Okay.
I saw the packet for the, you know what I'm trying to say. And I saw the packet and I saw this communications, then I would be bringing up that petition or communication first before it was presented. So my thought was,
Gotcha.
since
I
it falls underneath that, then if we can include it in the participation for the second participation.
Okay, I understand what Clarissa's saying, and maybe this is something, I'm gonna need some time to sit and think, is we're talking about maybe looking at rearranging where,
I don't think you need to.
okay,
Because looking at this, if you move granting permission, you've moved, right, in bold, it's up underneath roll call
Okay.
members, right? So that way you can talk about the transcripts or anything here. That is, your first participation. But then if you go down to the second one, that gives the ability for any of the things that happened previous in the meeting to be discussed in that second participation.
okay,
Is
because we're
everything-
granting permission for the visitors to provide input regarding, as it states, standing committee reports, special committee reports, and reports of city officers.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at the possibility of including in that
And-
also the reading of the communications and petitions.
Yeah.
Understand, took me a while, but
Sorry. I always kind of like circle the point, so I apologize. It takes more words than necessary sometimes.
okay. If you're okay, but again, it's up to the committee, I'd like to note that and then check with the law director and see if he feels there's any problem. Because maybe the fact that it's communications and petitions from someone other than council itself, they may not want to start because what if someone is against, say, a communication or a petition? We don't want to get up here and have a,
Yeah, I understand that, but I know but negates everything I just said, but I feel like it happens already if you go back in the meeting notes.
Okay.
People will come up and talk about it. If that is something you're wanting to prevent, then I think it should be done universally. But if it's a problem, like I think the fireworks were brought up as a conversation petition, and if it's accepted by the council to file, and it is something that has been accepted, I guess, by council, I feel like then, if any motions or anything, sometimes it happens, like motions come up based off of that community petition that maybe would, I don't know how to explain it.
let me
Do
ask
see
you
what I'm
this
saying?
question, Clarissa. I don't know how often that happens where we have a communication that we just file it. I mean, I know we've done that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, I think it ends up being referred to a committee. Maybe not, maybe I'm thinking wrong. But I guess, let's say if we had someone who wrote a letter about something, just like with the Seventh-day Adventist Church when they were about their signs, that was placed in committee. So that would then give someone an opportunity to come and talk. Of course, it wouldn't be here at the council meeting where the communication was brought up, but the fact that it was referred to committee, the idea being, this is where discussion goes on about the idea.
Yeah,
That's just something I'm throwing out.
yeah.
But again, if we're all fine with it, and if you're not, let me know. I'm writing this down, and we'll pose that to the law director and see what his thoughts are.
Yeah, that's
Because like I
fine.
say, I'm not comfortable right now voting and changing.
Of course.
So unless, the rest of the committee wants to, do. I mean, I'm just the committee chair, so.
I think you should probably consult the law director with that one.
Okay.
I'm in here too.
Carolyn, do you have any comments to make on that? Waiting for the law director?
No, I think we should consult the law director.
While you're up here, because really, we've done our thing, I do believe. Is there others that you want to talk about, Clarissa? Let's see.
Were we wanting to discuss rules of procedure? Or were you wanting to do what you did with the ordinance, and you guys have the discussion, and then if I have anything to input?
Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about on the ordinance 11-2024?
I think I brought everything up that I wanted to. Yeah,
And I
'cause
mean,
we-
I'm sure once we pass this on to the law director and we have another draft to look at,
Yeah,
then,
'cause we discussed the censorship / penalties. I think my only note on that is,
but it's not in here.
it's not right. I mean, just today, we discussed, you mentioned it, that you were gonna bring that up to him.
Right,
Right.
yes, yes.
And my only note on that was, like a progressive form of both. Because you're limited on what you can do. You know, it's not like anyone's gonna be expelled from council, like, that's not an option, but like, I just mean like,
Did you have provided to you, and I'm sure this, I know this was on documents on demand, papers that Mr. Fankhauser had provided back on June the 5th. Well, that is, he provided them, well, I guess that came to me, but I know it was on documents on demand. The censure and removal, this was a Macedonia, Ohio. And this is a document that says, you know, upon a first censure, this is what happens. Then, I think that's your progressive.
was that you or me? That might have been me.
I'm looking here, this one, this was from Kurt, the Macedonia. Now, you may have
Sure,
included
it's-
Macedonia, because
might-
you two sort of doubled up on some of the stuff that you sent to us all. And no, yours, no. You had Akron, Columbus, Cincinnati, Canton, yeah. Yeah, and then Kurt had North Plains, Macedonia, Cincinnati, that, and Canton, that's where you two doubled up on.
Okay.
Yeah,
I knew it sounded familiar, I probably read it, I don't have that paper on. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was just addressed with the law director.
Right.
Questions on that. But other than that, I think we did everything that I had noted. Did we talk about 111.04?
which one?
111.04?
No, we did not, I was gonna let you bring that up.
I was just curious to which, if that was sufficient, or if that would be reference to the .22 that was just added. The interrupting.
I'm looking here to see what we have under. The 111.04 deals with interrupting. No member of council shall be privileged to disturb or interrupt another member in possession of the floor except by a call to order. I was looking to see if I don't think there's any reference in our rules of procedure.
I think we're all guilty of this one.
Well, yes, we are. And I think what Clarissa is wondering is if maybe we need to elaborate a little more on that, or,
Yeah, that's my question.
is it okay if I make a note on that as well?
Yeah,
And
of
then-
course, that was more like a question to
Yes.
ask a question to the law director.
Elaborate. Got it, okay.
I think that's all I have on that, so I'll let you guys do your thing on.
Okay, thank you. Kurt? Oh, I'm sorry.
Pertaining to the censure, it's permitted already through Robert's rules. The only subject was do you want to add to it and make it more? Because right now it only requires a majority vote to do a censure. And some of the other communities had made it 2/3 vote or unanimous except the member being censured. So that's what the censure, that's why the censure was brought up. Was because right now you could do a censure with as little as 4 members.
In this that document that you gave to us dealing with North Plains, Oregon, that's censure of council member, this is...
Yeah, you don't have to have it in here about censuring to do a censure because it's already permitted in Robert's rules with a majority vote. So
But we're
that was
thinking that if
really,
we put it in here, it's just a little easier to...
yeah, unless you're putting it in there with more things to it, then you're just duplicating what's already in Robert's rules.
Okay. Carolyn? Excuse me,
Oh,
Kurt, were you
go-
done? I'm sorry, just a minute.
Oh, no, I just had one more thing. The second portion on the public participation, I was wondering, is that an additional 5 minutes of speaking time in addition to the first? Or
Yes.
are they added together? So you could do 10 minutes?
You could do 15 minutes if you wanted, because then there's the ability to speak on legislation.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear so that I
Yes,
knew
and
what
when
to
I
do.
say that, let's double check here. Oh, it should be under miscellaneous. Somebody can find it faster than me.
What were you looking for, sorry?
5 minutes speaking, and that's going to be in our rules.
Or it's gonna be the A,
Madam Chair, I have
Thank you.
it. It's A, citizen participation, and it's section 8, I believe.
Section 8. Yes, it says, each speaker not already on the agenda shall speak to council on one subject at a time for a maximum of 5 minutes during each of the 3 opportunities to address council. Well,
I was gonna bring this up too.
for a maximum of 5 minutes during each of the 3 opportunities. Because I know the prior council, when it was 3 minutes, and I'll have to find my notes, because I know I listened to a meeting, I believe, well, I'm not going to say which council person or prior one, because I'm not for sure, but that it was, you got to speak 3 minutes at each public participation. But I could ask Aaron if I misunderstood that.
I think that's what we allowed. But that was why they were looking at 3, because 15 versus 9 is a big chunk of meeting.
I remember being, this has been brought up many times, and a former council person, when you wanted it to be 5, they wanted it to be 3, and they really fought for it to be 3 because they said it, sometimes it takes 5 minutes to get someone toned down when they're supposed to be at 3. But I guess I could just start hitting the gavel harder.
When they go over 5, or?
If they're not, if you're not getting them shut down, you know, if you try to be polite and then they, you know, they keep going and.
Well, and the whole idea is that you have 5 minutes to speak, and I'm just talking about the first public participation, because I think all these others, very rarely do you have somebody speak, and if they do, I don't think anyone's ever gone over 3 minutes or 5 minutes.
That brings up something else I wanted to bring up. So, do we want to have in there that when this public participation is happening, that it can only be pertaining to a legislative issue? Because that one communication and petition that I wanted to put in one time, you said, well, is this a city issue? Is this, because that's really all this body can do is legislative things. So, I mean, do you want to have clarity on, you know, because really somebody could come up here and talk about rainbows for 5 minutes.
You know, Kurt, I wanted to recall, and of course I can't find it right away, that there is something that states that when one is talking, it's to do with, it says like government matters, meaning, you know, city government matters. I'm not going to go any further until I check on that. I'm not going to say any more until I check and know that I'm saying the correct stuff.
And you know, we have a lot of public participation in our agenda compared to some other municipalities and things. Like, I've been to village hall, or not village hall, but village council meetings where they had none. There was absolutely no public participation.
Yeah.
I was never asked if I wanted to address their village council. I mean, so we're like putting a lot in there, and that's just.
We're putting a lot, giving the public.
Yes, we're overly. I mean, we're probably one of the most in Ohio, I would almost argue, as far as having public participation in the council meeting.
I'm comfortable with what, you know, we allow. Again, I don't think anybody really has asked about legislation.
Well, you know,
except it be me. Or if I have a question and I ask it during the public participation part. Or even when I was a non-council member.
Well, the only reason I brought up the legislative, you know, thing was because of how you said with the one committee, or not committee, communication and petition, where you said, that shouldn't be in there because it doesn't have anything to do with city government, which.
Oh, the one gentleman that you were reading on.
It was the such and such high school class that graduated some year from Bucyrus High School was doing a tree
Correct,
planting
yeah.
out at All Miller Park, and you said, that's not, you didn't want that in there because it didn't really pertain to the city.
Right, and I did look.
And then that got me
Yeah.
thinking on, well, I mean, is this public participation stuff supposed to be for legislative issues only? Or, I mean, is it wide open or what? Because what this body can do is only legislative stuff and pass a budget. I mean, other than that, they can't do anything, really.
Okay.
Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. I agree, and I believe that is really covered under citizen participation. Under number 4, making any personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks. So impertinent would be not pertinent to council. Are you looking for your definition for impertinent?
What's that?
Are you looking for your definition of impertinent?
Well, yes, and I brought
I knew it. I knew that's what you were doing. As soon as you started ruffling, I knew.
It's down in my briefcase, yeah. I know there was somewhere, that's not where I was looking at, Clarissa, when I was having my discussion with Kurt on that particular correspondence that the city had.
Would it be number 6, maybe?
I mean, it specifically said. No,
On the, but it's split. There's a second half on the back.
oh,
Found it?
under miscellaneous, number 5, all letters of correspondence and/or petitions dealing only with the city government that are submitted to council for presentation.
So you could put something similar, if I may, you could probably put something similar in that number 6, or,
Number 6,
yeah, because
on miscellaneous.
yeah, because it talks about, you need to address at the podium. You can't speak from the audience unless, there's a physical limitation. Direct questions only to the president of council, council chair, and council members. And then it says any person with questions regarding legislation, da-da-da-da, and then you could put something in there, or it could even just be a whole new number, I guess. Or you could do it in most miscellaneous and state all letters of correspondence and/or petitions. I don't know, that wouldn't really fit, would it?
What is it you're wanting to,
This section that you have about, if we could take number 5, and instead of saying all letters, correspondence, and petitions dealing only with city government, and take the all letters portion all the way up to the word with the city government, and have it be public participation shall only address concerns with the city government. Any other discussion would be considered impertinent, or I don't know if you want to say with city government and its officials, or with city government and its functions. I don't know how you want to word that, so it's...
the first thing I think of is, I know at one time we had Mary Lee Minor came and spoke under public participation, and wasn't it the daffodil, where they were planting daffodils all around?
But that's something,
Sorry.
Thank you, Erin.
I was gonna say, that's something that affected the whole city, so I'm thinking it wouldn't be just legislation, but things that are only pertinent to the city, since this is city council, because this is a place where people get information like that out.
Okay.
I mean, but yeah.
Another question for the law director, how do we want to word this?
So one thing I was thinking then, if maybe you could even say like impertinent, or it would be discretion of the chair or council president. I mean, if you want to put that in your notes, and maybe objected to or voted on by council if there is a disagreement.
It looks like I'm ignoring you and I answer it. Trying to find that. Our definitions.
It's gonna bother you, can't find that impertinent, huh?
Pardon?
The fact you can't find impertinent?
Aha. Nope. probably laid it up here.
So in the context, I think
Sure.
that, in which you have, if I may, in that where it's talking about, personal, impertinent, and, I'm going by slanderous, that's, I'm going off my memory here, I'm pretty sure that's how it's worded. Those are mutually not exclusive, it's mutually, those three pieces are taken as a whole. But I
And
think
those were references to individuals, like.
Right. So like if I was talking about, well, Vicki, I just don't like your glasses.
Right.
And that would be, in this context, it's not impertinent because I'm using it as an example, but typically would be like not pertinent to council procedure. But so in a way, impertinent would be I believe, a beneficial word. I know we're arguing over semantics here, but my whole thing is whatever word you want to use as an identifier of like should be discussed or should not be discussed, you could put that into the committee chair or president of council, and then if there's any, there you can suspend the rules at any time and ask for that to be considered if the majority finds that is something they want to discuss or disagree with a definition of. That's
Okay.
something I think in Robert's rules, I'm going off of my knowledge now, but I don't have it.
And
in
I
front of me.
know I'm always one that likes, I'm a stickler. But then I want to be a stickler on the other end where I guess I feel that the public should be able to come and talk to council about anything. And,
Like an open door policy is what you're thinking?
well,
I just don't want people to abuse it for you guys either.
yes.
So that's where I think like discretion is, there's always has to be some sort of discretion. I feel like that should be written in there. That way there's no liability on whoever the presiding officer is for things to occur like previous councils had issues with, I guess.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Thoughts and notes.
I'm writing that down.
I'm sure to go back and watch it 3 times too.
Okay. Carolyn.
We're discussing rules and procedures, right?
Um,
Anything specific?
We haven't got to that yet, but yes, I have that on the agenda. Well, I guess, yes, we have been making reference to
Right.
this and that, excuse me. So you have something to say on the rules
No.
of procedure?
On the rules of procedures, well, I don't know, yes, I do, matter of fact. I think that we should, in looking at this right here, council participation in B. Up here in 2, last sentence, council members and city officers will silence all electronic devices. Okay, I think we need to revisit that. And I'll give you, for instances, why. I believe that when we first did this, today, we seem to be having problems with telephones, cell phones at the meetings and council. For instance, I'll just state, and I know you didn't do it on purpose, but during a council meeting last week, your phone went off. During this committee meeting right now, Aaron's went off.
And if I could just interject, I think in the past, it's at the start of, at least I know that council meetings, the prior council president would say, please, everyone please silence their cell phones.
Right.
And so,
But what I'm getting at is I think we need to revisit this. And I think we need to address stricter consequences for the cell phones. Because what we've decided on up here is not working. And that just doesn't mean with the phones ringing, that means everybody on their phone. It's just an annoyance because you don't know why are they texting at a committee meeting on their phone when they're at the meeting.
Well, and I know we'd had discussion about this before.
Right, and I think that when we first all talked about this, most of us agreed that there was no reason to have a phone at the committee meetings. And the police are down below, that was one of the reasons, you know, emergency. Well, my God, we're right above the police. If anything, a call would come to them, they'd know if we're here. So I think that's a lame excuse to have your phone. And then looking things up is faster than the tablet that we have. Some of the people that said that don't even have their tablets on their desk. So I think we need to revisit this and put some little bit of rules down.
And I guess I'll say again, we had talked about this at several ad hoc committee meetings. And it was the consensus of 3 of the 4 committee members that we did not want to change and state that no one could have their phone at the table.
Well, I figure since we're revisiting and rewording verbiage, we could reword and rechange this. I mean, how many, okay, say your phone goes off two more different times. And that's just an example.
Sure.
What happens? Nothing. Because according to this, the only thing we do is shut off the electronic devices.
Well, we silence them.
Which is pretty much the same thing. I mean, if we're going to get technical on rules and procedures and saying this and saying that, I think we need to work on this phone thing. I mean, people were even saying out in that watches the videos, why do they have the phones? And if everybody's so worried about us being proper, then let's get proper. You just can't hit and miss. You know? You never see my phone on here. My phone never goes off. I don't need it because I have my tablet. I have my papers. I don't need to be on my phone to look at anything. I can look it up at home before I come here because we get the papers on documents on demand.
Does the committee have any comments to make?
So you're asking you want punishment for people who don't turn their phones off?
No, I'm saying what are the repercussions for them if they keep going off? I mean, if one person's phone goes off more than 2 or 3, you know, what's the repercussion for them for their phone doing that? That's what I'm stating. We need better rules for having phones here than just shutting them off because obviously that's not working. I'm just saying we should revisit it and change and add some procedures to it.
Well, then how about if I say this? If you want to prepare what you feel needs to go in section 2 as far as,
The phones?
and then the next time we have our ad hoc meeting, then you can present that.
I can do
And
that.
then
I can do that.
the committee can discuss, and then we could vote again. Chris?
I know this is procedures for us and in some aspects on that side too, as far as way people should behave. Carolyn brought up the phone thing. I watched and sat here on certain occasions when people had their own phones out, being on their phones, allowed to be on their phones, but they were actually using their phones to videotape us during certain sections that have, certain things that have happened up here. I see all the lights go on and everybody's filming what's going on up here. I really didn't care for that too much if it's already on, it's already out there to the public anyway. I didn't really see any need for that as far as you're bringing up phone stuff, because that was pretty disturbing. Seeing, actually some people had their phones ready to record something that they thought was going to happen. And that was kind of disturbing a little bit.
And I might add, Vicki, that when I was asked to leave at that committee, at our meeting, I will tell you that somebody that was sitting back on that side there videoed the law director picking my stuff up, Tommy Starner standing behind me, and as I walked out, they videoed the whole thing, everything I said, and this was put in a group called Shireman Shenanigans by somebody that was sitting out here in this group.
Okay.
That is my problem with the phones. They could have saw it on the public video. Nobody needed to sit here and video it and then put it in a group.
Well, again, Carolyn, if you would like to, prepare.
I definitely will.
Okay, that's fine then.
I most definitely will take care of that problem.
Now, keeping in mind that you'll be presenting this to the committee.
I know.
And then, of course, then the committee.
I know.
Okay.
Yep.
Clarissa?
My only note on this was, I grew up in Catholic school, and phones weren't a big deal then, but disruptions were, especially during church. And as I got older, obviously, phones were available. Mistakes happen when it comes to that. I do feel like, especially if it's your meeting and you're engaging in it, it's very different than being on this side where people maybe are just waiting. However, I put my notes on my phone to read from. I don't always type everything out. Sometimes I have my tablet. I think you guys have all seen I had each one. But legally speaking, I mean, yes, you could draft legislation, I guess, or include it in the 111 or include it in, that's where I think maybe it gets a little dicey, is would you have to have something that states that I don't know what the legality of that is, and maybe that's a question for the law director. Limiting people their access to their own property. It's a one-party.
Are you referring to more the public?
Correct. I mean, the law states, I can't remember what ORC it was, but it states that council is allowed to make rules to govern themselves. And obviously, there's ordinances you can pass within the city, but then I feel like that's maybe public lands and buildings if you want this room to be limited. I don't know. I really don't know. That's why I think it's a question for the law director on limiting freedoms that individuals have to their property. That's where my concern is.
Well, I will say this, my own personal opinion is, there is no way that I'm going to say the public cannot have their phone. I do agree that their phone needs to be silenced. And I guess then the question comes up, what is silence? Is it just putting your phone on vibrate, or is it totally turning the phone off? I mean, when a phone vibrates, I don't know, is that
The only time it was when you put it on your, when you had it underneath for some reason, then it just turned into a giant echo chamber. But that's my only concern, and I guess if I had to put myself in your guys' shoe, I would probably feel the same way, that I think that from a council, if a council member is using their phone during a committee meeting, not for purposes of pulling up an email, and I know some people don't like the tablets, the Surfaces or whatever, but if they're not using it for official purposes, it's kind of rude to be sitting there and texting. That's not kind to be doing. But for the citizens, as long as they're not like, I mean, and Aaron, I've done exactly what Aaron did. I had my watch and I accidentally hit my Find My button, so it starts dinging my phone. I mean, that's an accident. I think, like, you know, if it becomes a disruption, or if someone wants to do a point of order on it, that's complete within their right to do so. And then if they consider it a disruption, that's something you guys would discuss. Like, that's, I think, already within your scope. But that's just my opinion, so. That's all.
Well, and speaking for myself, I won't speak for the other two. I mean, I know Carol and I have asked for you to put down what your thoughts are.
I'm going to get it.
I'm not sure if it's going to go anywhere, because we have had this discussion before.
But we don't know either.
And that's true, but I just,
I have a question, though.
yes.
My question is, how would the visitors out there like it if council here had their phones out
Carolyn,
and
we're
was
not-
videoing
okay,
them?
We're not going to go there with that, okay?
I'm asking a legitimate question.
And
And we posted
I,
it.
as the
Would we
chair-
be told,
Carolyn.
see? Here we go.
Now, Carolyn, I'm asking you nicely. We just don't want to go there.
Don't continue. Write that down, shut down.
On the rules of procedure for Bucyrus City Council, the first page under A, citizen participation, and these are just a few things I'm just going to throw out. There's been some other discussion on some other thoughts, but unless the committee wants to talk further.
No, I'm good.
But what I would like to point out is some more Scribner. Under citizen participation, number 1, second sentence, the word invocation is misspelled. Smack me again. On the next page, number 7, second sentence says addressed. That should say address. Me bad again. And number 9, I've been looking at that, and that has to do with if a speaker shall violate any rules of council. I'm wondering if there needs to be some reference in that to the 111.21. It's another one of those cross references, because that's what we talk about in 111.21. If a speaker violates, this is what happens. Just a thought.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I be excused from the rest of the meeting?
Okay, let's see. Do I have to? Ooh, that I don't know. Carolyn, I think we're almost done. You could sit by with us for a few minutes, please.
Nah, I think I want to go. Thank you.
The next page, council participation, number 10. Second sentence says, the president of council or the law director of their designee. That should say, or their designee. And those are the only Scribner errors that I came across. And I guess I was going to, again, I think you could consider them a Scribner error, was going to bring those up at the council meeting and ask that, those changes be made. And I don't know, I may still do that tomorrow evening. The fact that there may be some other changes, I don't know yet. I'm not gonna get real funny about it, but at least I've corrected the Scrivener errors now, and if somebody goes to Documents on Demand and pulls it up and sees those typos, my fault. That's all I have, unless anybody else. Again, what we'll do is, we'll pass these changes or suggested thoughts and what have you on to the law director. And I guess we'll, go from there. Clarissa?
Okay, I promise I'll make it quick because I know I didn't realize what time it was. Kind of got a little lengthy there. Sorry, give me a second. I think I discussed this with you with citizen participation. I feel that maybe it should be called non-council or committee. Rules for non-council or committee members. I don't know how you want to word that exactly. Just because citizens, like number 2, it says visitors, but then it talks about city employees or elected individuals not in council. I think I talked to you about the rewording, and if you want me to send that to you, I can, but the way the second sentence I stated that visitors are to sign in the visitor attendance sheet, including all non-elected officials or city employees not visiting council or as a committee as part of their job function. Just like reword that so it's more inclusive, because you have that paper there, but then you don't state that visitors actually have to sign in on it in your rules. You have that paper back there for for visitors, like citizen visitors, but you actually don't have in here that they have to sign it, as it's worded now.
We don't have it in here that they're required to sign it?
Correct. It says all non-elected officials or city employees not visiting council or a committee as part of the job function are required to sign in the visitor's attendance sheet, but
We're
it doesn't
not.
actually say visitors, like,
You're
in
correct.
general. So
Okay.
I'll send you the verbiage on that if you'd like
Thank
me to. And to go back on it, the number 3, about the rules or disturb any member while speaking or refuse to obey orders of council or committee or its presiding officers. I guess I'm kind of confused on this. Maybe I'm just not interpreting this right, but it's basically saying that if a citizen is given a directive by a committee or the president or chair, whatever member, that's where this is coming from, like, right? I don't quite understand.
Okay, this is under citizen participation.
Number
While
3.
the council or any committee is in session, the members must preserve order and decorum, and a member shall neither by conversation or otherwise delay or interrupt the proceedings or the peace of the council or any committee, or disturb any member while speaking, or refuse to obey the orders of council or any committee or its presiding officer, except as otherwise herein provided. Is that what you're not sure what the...
Right, guess I was just asking, is that basically all-inclusive to, like, we're talking about phones and all these other issues, if they're wanting it to be addressed, would that not be included in that? If they're finding it disruptive or what have you? I feel like that's a catch-all, I guess is what I was,
Okay,
maybe that's a question for the law director.
yep.
And then lastly, I'm just going to ask this of the council just to preserve any, I'm just trying to find a way to word this, I'm so sorry. Any extracurricular discussion outside of these chambers that you decide if Mrs. Shireman was properly dismissed from this meeting because there was no answer, and I can just see this becoming a citizen when there's not a affirmative in this council chambers, it gets haywire on the internet. And so I'm just asking that that deliberation occur, so it's put to rest. And that's all I have. Thank you.
So you're, I
putting
think I
that
was
in your
more
hands.
watching you.
I'm just like, I want this to come off as,
So you're
Please
wondering if we
confrontation.
are excusing her from tonight's
yes,
meeting?
I would like you to, because I believe you must be dismissed by the committee chair. I personally find it rude to walk away without getting that answer. However, this has come up more than once, and I feel like to snuff out any deliberation that the citizens feel like they should take on because it wasn't decided here, that decision and deliberation should happen in these council chambers. Please and thank you.
And it does say under 111.110, permission required for leaving session. No member of council or any city official seated within the council chambers railing shall be permitted to leave council or committee meetings while in session without permission from the presiding member. And yes, I am the presiding member. And I did ask for her to stay. I said there was just a little more time, and I am not going to excuse Ms. Shireman from the meeting. And it doesn't look like I need to ask for your concurrence of my decision, or,
I don't think you have to, do you?
no. And I mean, when she asked to leave and I asked her to stay, I mean, no, I did not say you have permission to leave, and so let the record reflect that I did not give permission for her to leave and that I did ask for her to stay. Does anybody else have anything to say? Okay. I'm going to adjourn the special ad hoc meeting at 7:42 p.m.